difficult to say whether the 2021 elections contribute to the furtherance of democratization in Uganda. I think that is a curtain raiser to the next research, to the next book. Then you say, we cannot tell if policymakers and the EC learned any useful lessons for governance of elections in a health crisis. Of course, the last sentence is my homework as the Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs. For future elections to be more transparent, credible, free, and fair, there will be a need to adopt more electoral reforms and for the EC to take more proactive measures in ensuring that security forces follow certain established electoral guidelines. Now, for a book which is trying to draw a line between form and substance, I found this conclusion problematic. In any case, our problem really are not the laws. There is something which we have to talk about, our political culture. In one sentence, this is really the culture of the winner take all. We are here in the university where even academic freedom is under threat. I understand a curriculum for postgraduate studies in human rights was not approved by the Senate because apparently it would offend the government to teach this issue of human rights. So this is a tribute to the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung that they have come to an institution which is supposed to embody freedom, which apparently is now embracing some kind of illiberal democracy. I say this as a lawyer. I say this as one who was taught for 3 years at the Faculty of Law, as it was then called. So, why should we focus on the form as the main recommendation? I can tell you as I talk now, there are things which concern me, and let me share them with you. Form and substance is explainable in terms of what the content of a free and fair election should be. Just like water is 2 molecules of hydrogen and 1 molecule of oxygen. That is the essence of water. You can have it as ice when it is frozen. You can have it as gas when it evaporates. You can also have it as a liquid, the water that is there in front of us for drinking. I believe that the substance of what a free and fair election is captured in the research. You talk about the players. Look at elections as the World Cup or the Premier League, which we love for those who watch British football, or the Bundesliga for those from Germany, and Serie A for Italians, and so on. La Liga for the Spanish. The football league has got players. call them the teams. The parallel in an election are the political parties. And I hope there will be an open discussion about the state of our political parties. I lead one. The Honorable Winnie Kiza leads another one. I'm sure there are many of you who belong to political parties. The former guild president and the current guild president, they wore red berets on campus in order to persuade voters that they are connected to a very powerful organization which is about to take power. Others belong to our grand old party, the DP. Others belong to the ruling party, the NRM. So we will also look at the state of the players of this tournament we call election. Then we look at the rules. Rules are important. When I say the problem is not necessarily the laws, the idea should be that laws should be enforced impartially for them to be meaningful. You have been listening to comments about the ruling of the Supreme Court. It's really a storm in a teacup. What the Supreme Court did is what the linesman does by raising a flag and saying, hey, the ball is crossed the line. And he keeps the flag up until the referee blows the whistle. The Supreme Court did not make the Constitution. The Supreme Court did not enact the UPDF Act. All they have told us is that there's need for alignment, there's need for will alignment, and some kind of reform if the government policy is to continue trying civilians in the military court. Some kind of will balancing. But people are making a big fuss out of it. The court actually has given us homework. And it is our duty to respect what they have decided. We also have a right to criticize. For those who want to criticize the Supreme Court ruling, you actually have a right to disagree with it, but there is no right to disrespect it or to disobey it without undermining the Constitution of Uganda. So, FIFA is in charge of the World Cup. You have the rules, and they must be enforced. Fortunately, you now have also VAR, in case there is human bias. Among the laws that I worked on first when I became Minister of Justice is a law to make compulsory electronic voting. I believed that I would at least solve one problem, namely ballot stuffing, which is common. I thought that if we have electronic voting, and the technical people at the ministry agree with me, we must ensure that the ballots counted tally with the record in the machine. We even proposed in the law that any presiding officer at whose polling station the votes counted from the ballot box are more than the record on the machine, that presiding officer will go to jail for up to 5 years. So, based on my experience, because I have also been a victim of that, I took the law. My law has not yet seen the light of day. So I hope you'll allow me to mobilize you to join me in calling for making electronic voting compulsory, the way it is in India. And those machines are machines that don't have any connectivity. They have no capacity to communicate with any other machine. So those who are saying that Russians are going to rig elections using the machine, or hackers are going to hack into the machine, that capability will not exist. So the law has been referred to a cabinet committee to study it. It's now more than 6 months. I expect that those of you who really want free and fair election will join this crusade that I'm leading to demand electronic voting, because it will at least solve one problem. The other thing I proposed was body cameras, that a presiding officer should have a body camera that records everything that is going on in the surroundings. These are proposals. So we have got the rules, but those who are supposed to enforce them may not have the capability of enforcing the rules. The Electoral Commission must be in charge of elections. And I mean everything about the election. Yesterday, Parliament almost ate the government alive over the chaos in the voter registry matter. I know for sure, for instance, that one of our party officials in Busia went and checked his name. A few days later, he went to check again, and he had moved without his consent. And then hundreds of voters had been shifted to another polling station. That means to have free and fair elections, you need vigilant citizens. Don't count only on the Electoral Commission. Don't count only on the government. The elections are about the people. So the vigilance of the people is what will ensure that there is real substance. I have been a candidate. I've also been a manager of a campaign. When a candidate is campaigning, they are allowed to do everything that is lawful in order to win. As a manager for presidential candidate Amama Mbabazi in 2016, one of the ways in which we thought we could ensure that we have proper records was to invest in funds. So our candidate bought thousands and thousands of phones from China. The phones were called Techno Y2. They had internet capability, the cameras, they were smartphones, really basic smartphones. And the entire data of the Electoral Commission was entered into those phones. So if you open the phone, it will tell you how many polling stations are in a sub-county, and it has even a space for typing results. It even has the capability of inserting a photo of an incident which should be recorded for purposes of our records. And we had a location where there was a huge server with the capability to receive and process all that data, with massive printers to print all those things. What we didn't know is that we were plugging our hopes on a socket, but somebody else had control of the main switch. Obviously, Within this room, we can think we can switch on and switch off lights. But if somebody else has control over the main switch and they don't care about our interests, then these switches and sockets are really irrelevant. So very early the next morning on election day, the main switch was turned off. All the SIM cards were blocked by MTN. End of story. We now gave ourselves the phones to use as normal phones. Now that is impunity. First and foremost, when I buy a SIM card from you, I have a contract. It means I must communicate to whoever I want using your SIM card. The fact that you can do that and get away with it simply means that there is a lawlessness. So that is a practical experience I am telling you about. In addition, we witness cases of violence, rigging. I understand in one polling station, a well-known bishop went to vote and he was told that, "Bishop, you didn't have to come. We have already represented you. We have voted for you." Bribery, that one you have seen. Now, this bribery is not really confined to the NRM. This bribery is across the board. I don't bribe voters. At least I have never bribed voters. But this bribery is across the board. Now, during campaigns, there are agents of voters. I got this story from Lira, that an agent will come to a candidate and say, "In this village, I can organize 1,000 people for you to address. But make sure that you have 2,000 shillings for everybody. And then for me, the agent, at least I need 50,000 for my endeavor." As I campaigned for the presidency in 2021, I passed via Rubanda. And there was a long line of people, and I wondered what was going on. Then I was told that they were receiving cash. Now, that raises the other issue that you talked about, namely the teams, the political parties. The truth is, even the parties that claim to be parties for foot soldiers, parties for the masses, that is hogwash. Take it from me. All our parties are really elite parties. And the sooner we accept that, the more humility we shall have. We can be elites, but we can represent the interests of the masses. Now, the fact that people can line up, and the same people know that actually they own the cash boxes in the Bank of Uganda. The same people know that actually they own all the oil. The same people know that they own all the minerals in Uganda. And their interest would be to remove from office those who are not enabling them to benefit. So the paradox of our elections is, why do the poor vote against their own interests? Why do the poor sabotage their own interests? I've been reading a book called Elite Parties, Poor Voters. Of course, the candidates then assume the role of the government, and they provide ambulances. So that ambulance will be crisscrossing. They will repair boreholes. Yet there may be enough money in the budget actually to take piped water. They will participate in funerals. There is one MP in whose constituency it is well known that any woman who delivers a baby is entitled to soap, is entitled to a towel, is entitled to bed sheets, and those kind of things. And then the things that you go with to hospital, ranging from gauze to bandages to razor blades and so on. Now, because the poor are really the poor, and you know what I'm talking about, this appears to be such a big deal. They therefore settle for the tokens, and then we, the privileged elites, we of course guarantee our interests. So we remove taxes on tourism vehicles. So tomorrow I can import Land Cruisers for my tour company. I can have free solar panels for my hotel and apartment. The poor cannot afford milk coolers. So having won election, then I go to Parliament and remove the taxes. Of course, the poor sometimes fight back, like they fought against the OTT tax, which the parliamentarians who get money for airtime and get money for internet. I get my iPad supplied by the Parliament, loaded with data regularly. But I can sit in Parliament and with the maximum insensitivity pass a tax OTT for everybody to pay. So, as I address you today, I want us to talk about the basics. We can have all the beautiful laws in the world. By the way, we have the best anti-corruption law. I've never heard anybody saying we need to reform the anti-corruption law to fight corruption. How come? Because you know that the law is not the answer. We have got one of the strongest anti-torture laws. So I insist that as we discuss this Band 8 here, this version of We Are the World, which I would substitute with We Are the People, it is in our best interest to talk about a new culture. I have some recommendations, then I stop.